All right, so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can beat an entire SDR team's performance for less than $700 per month. And realistically, while only committing a few hours of effort per week. And this is going to be done through adopting Cold Email 3.0. So if you don't know what that is, if you don't know anything I've just mentioned, don't worry. I have a feeling this video is going to be a long one. And so it will all be covered and I'll break it down into great detail. So how do I know this stuff works, what I'm about to talk through? The simple answer to that is because, I've been doing it successfully for the last several years. Here is some evidence to show that. The first screenshot isn't actually any numbers. This is an AI generated campaign we had, and the prospect was like, how the hell did you find out that specific information about our ICP? And then the remaining screenshots are numbers. So hundreds of opportunities generated, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cold emails sent. And then if this is your first time watching a piece of my content, so quick background on me. I've worked in the SaaS industry for the last 5 years. Started off as an in-house employee. So my first job in SaaS was as an SDR at a large American tech company. I then joined an early stage startup as one of the first growth hires. I was responsible for marketing, sales, a bit of product. I then founded my own marketing consultancy and agency where I've worked with dozens of B2B SaaS companies. More notably, I've helped a few startups go from 0 to 10 million to 20 million ARR. In most cases, they've been low funded or bootstrapped. For whatever reason, I've somehow ended up specializing in helping low funded or bootstrap startups grow. I've worked with venture backed companies as well, but my sweet spot tends to be low funded / bootstrapped. And most recently, I'm the co-founder of growsas.com. We help early stage B2B SaaS founders hit their first $1 million without having to raise external capital. More information on that, our core thesis, case studies, testimonials can all be found on the website. And at growsas.com, I'm building that with my co-founder who built and exited a software company for $2 million as a 21-year-old. And so collectively, we have over 20,000 hours of first-hand industry experience. He's worked in SaaS. I've worked in SaaS. And why I think it's important to say that is really not to boast or to brag. It's just that anyone can create a video, anyone can create a piece of content, make claims, tell you what to do, how to do it. But not a lot of people can actually back up those claims of evidence and show you proof of them doing those activities. So I think it's important to add that. So jumping into it, for the next few minutes, I'm just going to give context as to what Cold Email 3.0 is, what the history of cold email is and how it impacts you today. And, just the things you need to be thinking of if you're doing outbound marketing in 2024 and beyond. So it's no surprise that almost every B2B tech company uses outbound for customer acquisition. It's a reliable, effective method to acquire customers. And the methods and tactics used today were heavily influenced by this book, Predictable Revenue, which was co-authored by Aaron Ross. He helped build the internal processes for Salesforce. He built the inside sales team at Salesforce. That was his responsibility. And so a lot of what he did in Salesforce and talked about in this book, a lot of those tactics companies are still using today, almost 15 years after the matter. And so the fundamentals in predictable revenue are timeless, as most fundamentals are. But, people are still running the same playbooks, the same tactics from this book that was released in 2011. And so over time, it's become harder as the market has sophisticated. More people are sending more emails, and these tactics are just being rinsed and repeated. And, this is supported by data. Here we can see the number of attempts to book a meeting by an SDR over time. And this stops at 2022. I would actually argue that 2022 is probably when, the biggest changes in cold email happened that we've seen over the last decade. And so, today it's going to be even more touch points than this. It's really become sophisticated, and that's exactly what I'm hoping to show you in this video is how to still win. And so I've mentioned Cold Email 3.0 a few times. 3.0 suggests that there's a 2.0 and a 1.0. So just so that we're on the the same page with what that all means. So if we rewind over a decade ago when cold email was this new shiny thing, Back then, people were mostly sending emails manually. So if you just imagine for a quick second, go into Gmail, click in, send new email, manually enter in the prospect's email, manually write in the body text, and manually click and send. That's how people used to cold email. Some companies would have, in-house bespoke software, either to, scrape websites for contact information or to automate that manual process. But there wasn't really like commercial software for that. So characteristics: manual effort, which of course is inefficient. Low scalability. If you wanted to send more emails, then you needed more people and time, which is expensive and inefficient. However, it worked well because not many people were doing it. The barrier to entry was higher. You had to be the time, just the scale you could send was less than what it is today. There was also a skill factor. Cold emailing was this new thing, and so be able to write effective copy inside your emails. Not everyone could do that. And of course, if you were going down the in-house software route, well, again, there's a cost and time associated with that. So not a lot of people were doing it, which meant it was more effective as a channel and less competitive. So tools and methods: native email application, custom scripts and scrapers, lead farms. So these are third parties, typically offshore, that have large databases of contact information, still very much used to this day. And then of course manual emailing. So if we fast forward to cold email 2.0, this is kind of the sort of the era that I was in when I first became an SDR. So this is where commercial software comes into the picture. So semi-automatically sending emails with software rather than manual one by one in Gmail, and also getting contact data from commercial software as well. So elements of automation. Scale is still a function of people and time, but also now software, because commercial software entered the market. This was really the birth of the sales engagement software category. So some of the biggest names you see today, they were sort of born at around this time. And because they were like first to market, you can charge what you want. And so very, very expensive software still is expensive today. They sort of haven't, evolved as the market has. And so it's really not uncommon, these tools to be paying 20, 30, 40K a year, which is really expensive when you consider what's available today. Medium to high market sophistication. More people are sending more emails, and so the effectiveness of those emails is less, but not so absolute. It just meant that you had to be better. Whereas, when there was low market sophistication, you could pretty much get away with saying whatever, and it worked because people weren't receiving many emails. Whereas now, over time, people have, subconsciously we ignore cold emails, and so you have to be better to stand out. So tools and methods: sales engagement software, contact data software, and semi-automated sequencing. So what I mean by semi-automation is, so when I was an SDR, I'd go to the office and I would have this queue of tasks set up in outreach.io. And so, one task would be like, send this email to John. And so I would manually personalize the email and I'd manually click the button send. All right. So semi-automation, the software is sending the email on the back end, but there's still a human in the loop, which has just been completely removed today, if you want it to be. And then where we are today, cold email 3.0. So this is where you can automatically write and send emails. Commercial software for data is still there. If you want to go fully automated, that's where you can, speak to various APIs to programmatically scrape data, verify it, clean it, and use that to personalize emails as well. Characteristics: automated. Scale has now become a function of software and process rather than people. The software is cost effective because, the barrier to entry for building software has lowered today due to various factors. And so more software products are being created, which means there are more tools in the market, which means price has been driven down. So what used to cost, $20,000 a year, you can now get for $100 a month. And then high market sophistication, because of the barrier to entry for various things has lowered. More people are sending more cold emails, which means competition is higher. It's tougher to stand out. And so that's what I'm going to be talking through, is how you can still stand out despite all of this going on. And so tools and methods, sales engagement software, contact data software, automated sequencing. So you no longer need someone being paid $50,000 to $80,000 per year to be manually sitting there clicking buttons. And then we had the introduction of some unique mechanisms that really are kind of a foundational piece in cold email 3.0, which is inbox rotation, multi-account sending, domain warming. I'm going to be digging into a lot of detail about what those are. And then something else that was thrown into the mix was generative AI. So there's a lot that's happened over the last couple of years. Hence, we've kind of entered this new phase of cold email, which I'm going to be breaking down in great detail. And just it's worth noting that most companies are still using the methods from 2.0. They still have large, bloated, expensive SDR teams, sales teams. Whereas today, 80% of what those teams are doing can be automated. And it's not just about automating what they're doing. It's also about getting better results as well. So there are far less inputs while getting far more outputs. So it's not just about more automation. It's actually about getting better results as well. And so as I mentioned, generative AI has recently come into the picture. So the barrier to entry has just dramatically lowered for cold outbound because the democratization of tech, more tools have been created, which drives down the cost. The tools have better capabilities, which means an individual has far greater output. And the skills required to do outbound marketing has lowered as well. Something that used to be reserved for technical people to write that, in-house bespoke software, even like, bespoke scraping solutions, to where we entered like low code, no code, where commercial software came onto the picture, to where we are today, where you can quite literally that there are tools that you can use to research your prospects, write your emails, and send your emails programmatically, no code. So the barrier to entry has just dramatically lowered. And so I would say it's financially irresponsible today to still have large SDR teams using these 10-year-old playbooks and tactics when, you can be achieving far greater outcomes with, again, far less inputs. And by inputs, I mean overheads, time and effort. And so the kind of core point I'm trying to get across in this video is that, I truly believe an individual adopting the cold email 3.0 methodology can generate more results than an entire team of SDRs using the 2.0 methodology. And I would go as far as saying that, I'm confident a part-time contractor could do this. Everything I'm talking through can be outsourced or delegated. It doesn't need to be you doing it, and it certainly doesn't need to require full-time effort. And I say this because I've done it. I've done this for several companies with a few hours of my own effort per week. And companies have paid me a significant amount of money to implement this methodology. And so the objective of this video, I get a bunch of messages and emails about, questions about this sort of stuff. And so I thought I'd just chuck everything into this one video, teach people how to do this so you can implement this in your company for free. Because the truth is, what I'm about to talk through it's not some like black magic, like witchcraft. Myself and hundreds, thousands of other people have been doing this for the last 2 years. And so if you're only learning this about this in 2024, then, you're kind of 2 years behind the curve. So nothing I'm talking about is like extremely new, but if you're not using this method in 2024, then you're definitely going to be behind your competitors. And then, of course, if you want a higher probability of success, then go to growsas.com. We'll help you implement all of this. Okay, so how to adopt cold email 3.0. Number one, you need to focus on your infrastructure, landing in the primary inbox. So the number one important factor when doing cold outreach is your deliverability, right? It is a silent killer. It doesn't matter how good your product is or how personalized your email is if nobody sees it due to your emails landing in spam, right? So it doesn't matter how many minutes, hours you've spent on crafting the perfect email, putting together your contact lists. If those emails are going to spam, it's really all for nothing. And so not taking this seriously can result in not only your cold emails landing in spam, but also your company and client communication emails, invoices, check-ins, investor updates. All of those emails can also go to spam. if you don't prioritize your deliverability. And this actually happens. I'm not fear mongering here. Here's a transcript from read.ai, which is a AI transcription tool, of a call I had recently where this exact scenario was happening. So if you zoom in here, past 4 to 5 weeks, normal emails, where we've had an established relationship and we send an email with an attachment or instructions or anything, and it lands directly in their spam. So client communication emails go into spam because this company didn't prioritize deliverability. They were sending cold emails from their company's primary domain. Those emails over time have been reported as spam, or they've been filtered as spam, and it has affected the entire company's primary domain just because of not prioritizing deliverability. And so this is not only just like an inconvenience, and possibly embarrassing, but it's also, a business risk, right? Invoices being missed, investor updates. These are all business risks that can cost, a lot of money and embarrassment. And so a concept I'd like to introduce you is domain reputation. So the overall health of your domain, as interpreted by mailbox providers, is your domain reputation. So your reputation is determined by various factors such as engagement, spam complaint rates, spam traps, and bounce rates. And so a low domain reputation is going to increase the probability of your emails landing in spam. And eventually, if it gets worse enough, can result in your domain being blacklisted, which is the bad day at the office, right? That's where these email service providers basically throw your domain in the bin. They point at you and they call you a spammer. And realistically, does Google, Outlook, and other ESPs, do they, are they going to prioritize? Are they going to care? If you reach out to them and complain, hey, you blacklisted my domain, they're probably not going to care, right? These are large, billion-dollar, trillion-dollar, tech giants. They're not going to care. They'll happily blacklist your domain if it's been reported as spam, all right? And so this is really the end result if you don't prioritize this. And so with most things, prevention is easier than cure. And so I'm going to show you how you can prevent this from happening, as well as just, as you're cold emailing in the long term, how you can preserve your domain reputation for longevity as well. So how you can prevent this from happening, but also while cold emailing, some things you can do to preserve your domain reputation as well. And you must protect the crown jewels, right? It's likely that you're an online business, you're selling to people on the internet, and so your company's primary domain is like your shop's storefront, right? And if you lose that, if people can't get into the store, then it's a huge business risk. So something to really, really take seriously. Okay, prevent. Just going to take a sip. So how to prevent things like this happening? One way is to use secondary domains and accounts. So to prevent your company's primary domain being burned, you should isolate it from your cold outreach activities. And the best way to do this is by utilizing secondary domains and accounts. So when I say secondary domain, I'm talking about a domain that's used for cold outreach. Often it's named similar to your company by appending a prefix or suffix and redirecting all traffic to your landing page. So if your company's primary domain is google.com, a secondary domain that you could purchase and set up could be trygoogle.com. So we've just added a prefix. And so it looks like from the perspective of a prospect, it looks normal. It looks like, it's still google.com. And if anyone goes to trygoogle.com, we've set up a redirect to, the company's primary domain to avoid suspicion. What I mean by this is, just imagine for a minute, you receive a cold email from someone. What you do is you copy their domain name, you put that into the URL bar, and you go, oh, who the hell is this? If that, if you get like a 404 error, like this page does not exist, that's immediately suspicious, and you're probably going to not reply to that person, not work with them. Maybe you might report their email as spam. Whereas if when you did that, it redirects to the company's website, well, you're none the wiser. It would just happen instantly. And so it decreases suspicion, right? It looks dodgy if you're sending emails from a domain that realistically doesn't exist on the internet, right? There's no website. So it's a slight nuance like this you need to understand that makes a huge impact. So that's secondary domains. We then have sending accounts. So these are individual accounts, also known as like users or inboxes that sit underneath the secondary domain. So if the secondary domain was trygoogle.com, a sending account could be Liam at trygoogle.com, John at trygoogle.com. So these are the individual accounts underneath the domain. So besides deliverability, sort of isolating your cold email activities from your company's primary domain, this approach is what also facilitates horizontal scale, which I'll discuss later. So rather than requiring people to scale your outreach motion, you simply purchase additional secondary domains and accounts, which is more efficient and gives you more leverage. So this illustrates that. So, most people, they're still adopting this model here, scale by people. So you have SDRs. Each SDR has their own email account. My KPI was 40 emails per day. Some people might send more, but you're kind of limited of how many emails you can send per day, right? If you're sending 100 emails per day from like one sending account, again, that looks spammy. Think about it. What average person sends 100 emails per day via their Gmail account, right? Google, Outlook, they don't care if you're, sending internal emails or external emails. They just see a number. And if somebody's sending 100 emails per day, that looks spammy. So there's really like a ceiling to how many emails you can send per sending account. All of these sending accounts are connected to the primary domain. They're all sending emails from their company's primary domain. So about 160 emails per day, right? Eventually, you're going to get your domain blacklisted. That's one thing, but also you're just limiting yourself by scale. If you want to send more emails, you need more SDRs, which is expensive. In comparison to when you scale by software, where you could have one SDR, this could be an SDR, could be you, could be anyone, doesn't have to be an SDR. And this SDR is controlling several sending accounts, all connected to secondary domains. And so each one of these sending accounts could be sending 25, 30 cold emails per day. So we're still keeping the volume reasonable, but we have far more sending accounts and far more secondary domains. So if we want to send more emails, we just purchase more sending accounts and domains, which are going to be, $6, $8, $10 a month, rather than more SDRs, which are $40,000 to $80,000 per year. So horizontal scale. So setting up your sending infrastructure. I'm going to be giving a high-level overview of how to do this, but if I was to go into great detail step-by-step of how to do this, this video would probably be like 4 to 5 hours long. So I have got a full step-by-step guide on how to set up your sending infrastructure. I've got SOPs recorded with Looms that you can either follow yourself or you could easily delegate to somebody to follow the steps. So if you want access to that, let me know and I'll give you access. I'm just going to give a brief overview in this video so you understand the concept. So if you do delegate it, at least you know what's happening behind the curtains. So step one, we're going to purchase secondary domains. So to purchase domains, you can use GoDaddy, which is a domain registrar. I'd recommend purchasing at least 10 domains, but if you have a specific goal in mind, maybe you're working towards an objective this month, this quarter, you need to book a certain amount of meetings, you need to generate a certain amount of pipeline, then just reverse engineer how many accounts you're going to need. But 10 is just kind of a good ballpark to start with. So here are just some inputs you can use to sort of reverse engineer how many accounts you need. So recommendation is you have a maximum of 3 sending accounts per domain. You send a max of 25 cold emails per sending account per day. And so that will give you a max of 75 cold emails per day per domain, which is 1,500 emails per month. And so if you need to send 15,000 emails a month or 30,000 emails a month, you can just reverse engineer, using your KPIs to understand how many sending accounts and domain you need. And, if you have 10 domains, with 20, 30 sending accounts, if this is your first time doing it, it might be confusing. What should I name those domains? I can't come up with names. There's this spreadsheet here where you just list out how many domains you need, how many sending accounts, and it will automatically populate, domain names that you can purchase. So if you need access to that, just give me a shout. Best practices. So always prioritize .com domains over anything else. They just look the most legit. So try to avoid, .xyz and all these other cheaper domains. Try to prioritize .com. Avoid using excess numbers, letters, or symbols. So just imagine again from like a prospect's perspective, you've received an email and their domain is like Google abc123.xyz, right? It just looks dodgy. So you just need to put, think from the prospect's perspective, but also, the ESPs, they might also look for those sort of things. So you just want, look legit. Avoid resellers and cheap options where possible. It's just not worth the risk. So think about this, and this has become popular today. And, this is probably a point of debate, but you have two options. Purchase domains directly from domain registrars that have been in the game for decades, are, reputable sources of domains. It's their business. Or, go through a reseller who's been around for a few years, can save you a couple of dollars per domain. I would always choose, the reputable domain registrar. Like, sure, you might save a few $100s, but I think personally, this is just something that you do not want to cheap out on. It's worth the extra few dollars. And we're literally talking, you're going to be paying $2, $3, $4 extra per domain. So, as the saying goes, buy cheap, buy twice. And so this is what the spreadsheet will look like. So it's added these domain variations down with the email address variations as well. So GoDaddy, this is what this would look like. Testdgt.com, you just purchase a domain. Purchase around 10. So once you've got domains, they're going to be brand new. And so inherently, your domains are going to have low domain reputation, right? In the eyes of Google or Outlook, you're a fresh kid on the block, your domain. And so, inherently, they have low domain reputation. It's kind of like you've got to prove yourself. You've got to prove to these ESPs that you're not a spammer, you don't have malicious intent, that you're a legitimate business that wants to, communicate to other businesses. You kind of have to earn that. It's not a given right away. And so in the following steps, I'm going to talk through how you can, improve your sender reputation and not be blacklisted right away. So one part of that is setting up the right technical controls. So it just keeps everything above board, and it's just a low effort, high impact way to prevent deliverability issues. So this is going to involve going into your DNS settings, domain name system, and adding records. Specifically, you're going to be adding DKIM, SPF, and DMARC records, which are all just, if you're not familiar with what these are, they're just mechanisms for email authentication. So they just show to these ESPs that you are who you are. If you're familiar with, like cybersecurity, it's very common for like email spoofing, like phishing emails where people are trying to pretend to be other people. All of these mechanisms are just, are countermeasures for that. Then also you're going to set up MX records. So GoDaddy is a domain registrar. They sell domains. They are not an email service provider, at least to my knowledge. So we're going to be using G Suite for that. There is a debate with regards to Google versus Outlook versus other email service providers. Personally, I found Google to be absolutely fine, something to test for yourself and keep an eye on. I think this debate is more relevant if you're an agency and you're working with several clients and you're sending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of emails per month. Then I think this debate is more relevant. Whereas if you're just one company, a SaaS company, sending emails for your own interest, I think it's less relevant. So this is what your DNS settings are going to look like. So you're going to add, got MX records up here, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Again, I have a step-by-step guide on exactly what these record values need to be, how you verify them, etc., etc. But just to help you understand what's going on behind the scenes here. Once we've got the domain set up, the technical controls are good. We're then going to create the sending accounts. So remember, these are the actual inboxes underneath the secondary domains. And we're going to create 2 to 3 sending accounts per secondary domain. So if my secondary domain was trygoogle.com, I would create Liam at trygoogle.com, liam.d at trygoogle.com, and liam.done at trygoogle.com. So just slight variations of my name. That's going to give us 3 sending accounts. So, just from your perspective, I would put these sending accounts in your name or a team member's name. Don't try to do anything crazy or fun. We're doing legitimate business here. We don't want to try trick people. These need to be real people, these sending accounts. Add a profile picture. Again, if you receive an email from somebody, they don't have a profile picture, they don't exist. You search their name on LinkedIn and they don't exist, or they're AI generated. Again, that's going to be suspicious. It rubs people the wrong way. And so the probability of them not replying to you, not working with you, increases significantly. So that's why real people, real profile pictures. And when you're dealing with dozens of sending accounts, it can get messy. So just use a password manager. Don't store your passwords in spreadsheets. Okay, take a drink. All right, so once you've got your secondary account set up, it's time to prepare them for cold outreach. And we do this through a process called domain warm-up. So this is something I mentioned earlier in Cold Email 3.0. Essentially what this is where your new sending accounts are put into a pool consisting of hundreds of thousands of other sending accounts. And what these tools, you do this via a tool, is they mimic human behavior. So you imagine this pool of hundreds of thousands of sending accounts using automation, generative AI. They send emails to each other, so they engage with each other to mimic human behavior. And there's also some other elements, like, for example, if your email lands in spam, one of the sending accounts, the person you sent the email to, they'll remove your email as spam and mark it as safe. And so just mimicking different human behaviors to signal to email service providers that these accounts are legitimate and not spammers. And so over time, this increases your sender reputation. Now, before, people used to just do this manually. They used to subscribe to newsletters. They used to have scripts or just do it manually to send emails to each other. This is just a way of doing it automatically. And so it's just a part of Cold Email 3.0 and just something that people weren't really doing before. So this step is non-negotiable, right? As I said, your secondary domains, your new sending accounts are default suspicious. They default look dodgy. You need to kind of prove to these ESPs that you're not dodgy. And domain warm-up is part of that. Over a period of 14 days, they'll see, oh, look, this person's sending emails to people. Their emails are being marked as not spam. People are replying to their emails. Oh, okay, they look legit. And so it increases your sender reputation. Now, the recommended warm-up period is 14 days. I recommend you use a tool like instantly.ai, which is going to enable you to use domain warm-up with one click. So it's a very easy platform, and we'll be talking about instantly.ai throughout this entire video. You can use their domain warm-up feature. You can send emails. You can even use them for leads, inbox management, everything for about $97 per month. So if you compare that to the likes of Outreach, SalesLoft, where you're paying 10, 15, 20K a year, for $100 a month, you can literally have everything under one roof. And so when you add your email accounts to Instantly, just one button over here, this fire icon, you click that and it enables it. And there's nothing else you need to do really. Okay, so after 14 days, your new sending account should be ready to use. So you've purchased your sending accounts, your secondary domains, you've set up your sending accounts. From that day, you want to add them to a warm-up tool straight away, such as instantly.ai, and you want to warm them up for around 14 days. At this point, during this period, you are not sending any cold emails because that will look, the likelihood of those emails landing in spam is just so great. So you need to warm your sending accounts up, increase your sender reputation, then you can start sending cold emails. So just factor that into your timelines. So a summary for infrastructure then, deliverability is the number one important factor in cold outreach. It doesn't matter how good your emails are, doesn't matter how good your contact data is, doesn't matter how good you are as an individual at writing emails. If they're getting sent straight to spam, it's all for nothing. Protect your crown jewels. So again, this is greater than cold outreach. It's a business risk if your company's domain gets blacklisted. So be sure to use secondary domains and sending accounts. And it's about preventing your company domain from getting blacklisted. But remember, it's also a way to facilitate horizontal scale. So you can send more emails, book more meetings without having to hire more people. And then when you've bought them, you're going to prepare your sending accounts, setting up those DNS records and warming them up for a minimum period of 14 days. Yeah, just a reminder, I've got full step-by-step guides if you need, literally bullet points on how to set this all up. If you'd rather delegate it or outsource it, just let me know. I know a few partners that will do that for you, paid. Moving on, contacts. So finding people to email. So while your new accounts are warming up, that 14-day period, we're not just going to sit around and do nothing. We can prepare our campaigns, find the leads, write the copy, get everything set up. So on day 14, we're good to go. So before, however, we jump into talking about how we find leads, all of that, it's first important, and this is something that, companies really, really get wrong, is you need to be clear on who you're even targeting. We don't want to just sell to everyone. We should have a defined segment of the market we're reaching out to, because that's going to determine, one, the methods of how we get that contact data, but two, also the messaging we use in those campaigns. The better you understand the companies and people you're targeting, the more targeted your campaigns are going to be and the better results you're going to see. How you communicate to a CRO is going to be different to a CMO, to a VP of sales, to a marketing manager. We're not going to send the same emails to all of those people. We're going to be very specific and talk about the things they care about, the problems they're trying to solve. And so first of all, to understand those problems and desires and outcomes, we first need to understand who we're targeting. And so how you get information of people at SaaS companies, let's say you're targeting those, is going to be wildly different from if you're targeting family offices or private equity or e-commerce companies. The methods you use are going to differ. And so you need to be clear on who you're targeting, and then the messaging you send to those people is also going to differ. And then, again, like a slight bit of nuance that sort of people look past. Emailing the right leads with the right message is also a way to preserve your sender reputation. Because think about it, if you're sending a message to a CMO and the message you're sending to them is completely irrelevant, you just speak in a different language, that's going to piss them off, right? They're going to be like, okay, this person hasn't spent time, they haven't, put the effort in. And so the likelihood of them reporting your email as spam or not replying or not wanting to work with you, again, increases significantly. So you need to think about things from the prospect's perspective. So we're just trying to reduce the likelihood of these things happening. We're just trying to, again, you should be putting the effort in here because it can damage your brand reputation as well if you're just sending irrelevant emails to people. So step one of this is we need to define your ICP. So depending on your current growth stage, you might already have a clear picture of who you want to target and what they care about, or you might not. You might still be kind of defining that. That's absolutely fine. But just a few things to help you sort of define who you want to target. A few attributes. So we've got firmographics. So these are the company level attributes of your target audience. I'll show some examples. Demographics, these are the person level attributes of your target audience. We might be targeting the SaaS industry, but really we're targeting the people at those companies, and they're all going to have, care about different things. Technographics, so what tools and technologies does your target audience use, especially if your product fits into a certain workflow. Maybe you're on the HubSpot app store, or maybe you can only work with companies who are using Shopify. Technographics is really important because, of course, then we only want to target those companies. And then we have psychographics. So these are interests, activities, and opinions of your target audience. A common mistake people make is just talking about business outcomes. But a marketing manager doesn't actually care about the revenue. They'll indirectly care about the revenue of the company, but what they really care about are their day-to-day problems. Generating more leads for the sales team, improving the conversion rate of their website, publishing more SEO articles. These are the tactical things they care about. Whereas if you're just talking about business outcomes, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. So some examples of this, firmographics. So we've got industry, company size, revenue, geography, other. So I've just given an example here. E-commerce, 50 to 250 company size, 10 to 100 million revenue. Geography, North America, Europe, Australia. Other, we only want to target, VC-backed e-commerce companies in the health and beauty niche. Just to give you some examples, right? And this is the level of detail you want to go to, because the text here is going to be the inputs you use in the lead tools I'm going to talk about later, right? These are the filters you're going to use to find these companies. So it's really important you get clear on what the values are. Okay, demographics. So job title, seniority. So again, continuing with the example, we want to target brand managers, e-commerce managers, head of growth, chief marketing officers. So people on the kind of marketing growth side. Seniority, we only want to target manager plus because we want decision makers. Technographics, that could look like, okay, so we're targeting e-commerce companies, so they're probably going to be using Shopify Plus, Aftersell, Gorgeous, Klaviyo, Attentive, Triplewell. These are all e-commerce softwares, and so these are going to be really good sort of levers to find relevant companies. And so the more you know about the people you're targeting and the companies you're targeting, the more targeted your lead lists are going to be, the better results you're going to see. Technologies then, Cloudflare, Amazon, F3, jQuery, etc., etc. So these are quite broad. A lot of companies use these, whereas the tools are going to be more specific. Psychographics, so interests that these companies, these people might care about. Chew on This podcast, which is an e-commerce podcast. Sharma Brands, performance creative affiliate. So these are just like topics and things they care about. Again, this is just going to help you craft emails that resonate with them. Maybe you talk about specific topics that they care about to grab their attention, etc. Activities, just got some activities here. Opinions, again, help you craft emails that resonate. Fears, desires, wants. So what do these people actually care about? Channel efficiencies, that's big in e-commerce because profit margins are so low, and so small improvements have a massive impact on the bottom line. Low subscription costs for tech stack, trustworthy agency partners, community, working at a headline-worthy brand, hit monthly and quarterly performance objectives. So just some things that these personas might care about. I'm just doing this for example's sake. Really, the people you're targeting, you should deeply understand them. I have a video on YouTube that you can watch on one of my favorite research methods. So I call it the watering hole method. Go into social media platforms, forums, private communities, and just being a fly on the wall and really understanding the people you're targeting, so you can create messaging, marketing campaigns that resonate with them. Okay, so we understand who we're targeting. How do we get their data? So there are 3 primary methods of getting contact data in order of ease. So number 1 is database tools. Number 2, scraping tools. Number 3, data aggregators. And this is more advanced. So breaking that down, database tools. So these give you access to leads or companies for a monthly fee. They're the easiest and most beginner-friendly methods for finding leads. However, often not the cheapest or most effective method. Because they're the easiest method, they come at a bit of a premium because these tools have done some of the legwork. A lot of them have, their own collection methods. Some of them are quite smart. For example, Apollo, when you connect your email account, they basically download all of your contact lists and then, make them available to all other users in Apollo. Some of them have other collection methods, like they scrape databases, they use lead farms, etc., etc. So they're doing a lot of the upfront work for you, and hence why coming at a premium. So common tools of choice, Apollo, this is probably, most popular one. Instant Leads Lead Finder and List Kit. So using the native filters inside these tools, you can build semi-targeted lists and then you export the contacts. So using those these values here that we created while defining your target audience, you can see we've directly used those as inputs in the filters in these tools. So these tools have various filters, firmographic, demographic filters, like company size, all the things you would typically see on LinkedIn are, the filters you would see in these tools. So Apollo and Instantly, both of these have lead databases, and they also have a send-in tool capability as well. I would personally recommend Instantly. I've used Apollo in the past. It wasn't that great. My understanding is they don't have inbox rotation, multi-account send-in either. But, something to test for yourself. I've used Apollo before. The deliverability was quite bad. I switched over to Instantly. Everything improved. But, being unbiased, something to test for yourself. I just highly recommend Instantly. ListKit is just a database tool. They don't have a send-in platform. And so the reason why I say database tools aren't the most effective method, they're certainly the easiest, but they're not the most effective, is because sometimes these native filters, they're not enough. So for example, if you're targeting e-commerce companies, there is no industry filter called e-commerce. For example, or if you're targeting SaaS companies, there is no industry filter called, software as a service. And so because of that, you can't create highly targeted contact lists. And you sort of have to, apply these hacky methods, which just means you get these contact lists that have like irrelevant companies, which just means, you spend more manual time cleaning your lead lists. So to get to that, and perhaps, you're not targeting e-commerce, you're not targeting SaaS, and you get along just fine, your industry is available in these filters, then, you're solid, you're good. But if you are in these sort of more obscure niches, then there are some more extra steps you can do to build more targeted lists. So to get that level of detail, I recommend using industry-specific databases or directories as a preliminary step to using these tools. So for SaaS companies, you can use Crunchbase or Harmonic. For e-commerce companies, you can use Store Leads or BrandNav. Private markets, so for example, you're going after like family offices, you can use PitchBook. For local businesses, you can scrape companies from online directories. So there's directories out there that list, all the plumbers or electricians in your area. You can use tools to scrape the data from those directories, or you can just hire someone from Upwork or Fiverr to do that on your behalf. So you use these as a preliminary step. So if I was targeting SaaS companies, I would get a subscription to Crunchbase. It's like $600 a year. I would get a list of SaaS companies. There's tens of thousands on there, maybe hundreds of thousands. So I would get that list of SaaS companies, and then I would upload that to a tool like Apollo. And then I would find the decision makers at those companies. So it's a preliminary step just to make that more targeted. Yeah, that's what I just said here. It's just a better way. You're gonna see that your lead lists are going to be far more targeted, and it's going to save you time and headache. So scraping tools. So we're keeping everything above board here. I have to say, like, for most platforms, scraping is often against their terms of service. So do this at your own risk. I have heard some cases of people using scrapers on LinkedIn and getting their LinkedIn account restricted or banned. So do this at your own risk. I've personally never experienced any issues. But just something you need to be aware of. So scraping tools give you the ability to scrape data from various sources. So either via a plugin, so like a Chrome extension, or they have like a user interface that you can use. Now, the difference between a scraper and database tool is that database tools have an existing database of contacts that you can export. So Apollo, they have hundreds of millions of leads in a database that you can just filter and export. Whereas with scraping tools, you're finding the sources of data yourself, and then you're using that tool to scrape. And of course, they have some, a mixed match of sources on the back end. They're, basically a lot of these tools are APIs stringed together, and they might have their own collection methods as well. But the point being is, typically it's like point and shoot with lead scrapers. And because of this, they just tend to offer more flexibility with regards to targeting, and are often cheaper than database tools due to this like do-it-yourself element. So I know with a tool I recommend here, Find Email, it's about 2 cents per verified email. Some other tools, Prospeo and Drop Contact. My preferred method using the scraping tools is using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So basically put in all the filters in here, like demographic and firmographic information. And then in combination with Find Email's Chrome extension, I then scrape these contacts. So you can see here, just for example's sake, I've added some filter in here. I've uploaded account lists from Crunchbase. So again, there's no SaaS industry filter on LinkedIn Sales Nav. So I've exported SaaS companies from Crunchbase. I've then uploaded them to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And then I use Find Email to scrape the contact information of the people at those companies. Yeah, there we go. Just something worth noting, to use these account lists, you need Sales Navigator Advanced, which is about $200 per month. So you won't be able to do this just with the normal Sales Navigator Premium. So that's lead scrapers. So then data aggregators. So this is more advanced methods. I would definitely start with these two. But if you're comfortable with this, I'm speaking in your language and you've been doing this for a while, then you could probably skip straight to data aggregators. So these are tools that combine several data providers under one roof. So they're more advanced, and they tend to result in a better find rate. So what I mean by that is, let's say there's a list of 100 leads here. Typically, these tools will only find 20, 30, 40% of emails of to 30 to 40 people out of the 100, you'll get their emails. So it's not 100% find rate. Whereas using this method, you can increase that find rate, so you can get more emails for the same cost. Which makes a considerable difference at scale, right? If you're getting 10, 20% more emails and you're contacting tens of thousands of leads per month, that's a considerable difference at scale. Common tools for this then, Clay and Better Contact. So these tools, they use a method called waterfall enrichment, which connects several data tools together, either by native integrations they have or APIs. So kind of you bring your own API key, and these tools will speak to those APIs and do waterfall enrichment for you. And the way it works is it's sort of in a sequential order. It tries all these different data providers to find an email. So let's say I try to find the email of a prospect. It's first going to try this tool. If it doesn't succeed, it's then going to try this tool. It's then going to try this tool. So you're kind of increasing your surface area and increasing, the probability of finding an email. So it's a more modern method for getting contact information, but again, it sort of comes at a premium for these tools. Okay, so data verification. So a lot of these tools get their data from similar places. Some of them use their own collection methods. Sometimes they use permutation, which is basically just a fancy word of guessing emails. If you think about it, most email addresses are structured in the same way. It's just like first name at domain.com or first name.last name at domain.com. So a lot of these tools will just guess emails. And that's part of the reason why sometimes you get invalid email addresses for them, which it says here. So you'll find with some of these tools that the email addresses they provide you are invalid, especially if you're using something like Apollo. And then if you combine that with the fact that, people are always switching jobs, people's email addresses are constantly changing, right? You might have somebody's email address, but then they move company and that old email address is now invalid because the inbox has been shut down. And so verifying your lead data is critical. You need to be doing this. Skipping this step is just going to result in higher bounce rates because those emails don't exist or, they're just invalid. And so that's going to severely impact your deliverability. Again, if you look at this from the perspective of the ESPs, if you've sent 100 emails and 10% of those emails have bounced because the email is invalid or whatever, in the eyes of the ESP, it's going to look like, well, this person's spamming people. Like, why are they sending emails to invalid emails? It just looks dodgy. And so, you want to always aim for a bounce rate that's less than 3%. If you just say, get a list of contacts from Apollo and just chuck them straight into your sequencing tool, you're going to see bounce rates of like 10, 15, 20%, which is just, again, you're going to blacklist. You're going to burn your domains super, super quickly. So you need to be verifying your contact data. I will say that some of these tools I recommended, like Find Email and ListKit, they verify the contact data for you. So this is something really important to understand. If you use Apollo, unless it's changed recently, 20 to 30% of the emails it gives you will be invalid. They won't work. Whereas tools like Find Email and ListKit, they will only charge you for emails that they've verified themselves. So really important distinction to remember. So common tools of choice, you can use Never Bounce, Million Verifier, Find Email, they have it built in. Instantly Lead Finder, again, verification built in. ListKit, verification built in. And Clay, if you just want everything under one roof, so Clay is a data aggregator, they integrate with these verification tools as well. So just to show you this in practice, I exported some leads from a data tool, and then I ran it through a verification tool. And so as you can see, a significant amount of this data has been marked as unknown or failed. So we've got, how many emails have we got here? 13. The ones highlighted in green are the ones that have passed and been verified to be real email addresses. The ones in yellow are unknown, so they might have catch-all. The ones in red have failed, so the email address does not exist. And so you can see out of 13, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 of them have returned as passed. So just to show you kind of, imagine this is a list of 1,000 leads. It's a lot of email addresses that are a bit risky. So you should remove all of the emails in red that failed. Whereas catch-all, the ones in orange, this is a personal decision. Catch-all doesn't necessarily mean that email doesn't exist. So you can still send to these, but just keep an eye on your bounce rate, because it's a maybe. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but also they might not exist. So there are some tools out there that would do this verification process for you. But if you're going with the database tools, it's always worth just doing this yourself. You do not want to miss this step. Okay, so you have verified your data. Next, you want to clean and format it. So emails being labeled as spam can happen manually due to a prospect marking your email as spam, or these ESPs, they have triggers. They have systems set up to also look for and monitor for spam as well. So most people focus on trying to avoid these automated systems that say Outlook and Google have. For example, not having links in your email. Most people focus on those, but the former, reducing the probability of someone manually reporting your email as spam is also important. And so a simple way to decrease this is just by ensuring your contact data is clean. Making sure the messaging you use in your campaign is targeted, it's relevant for the person, and you've removed sort of traces of automation in your email. So what I mean by that is ensuring that names are spelt correctly and mapped to the right email address. So for example, it's not uncommon for some of these tools to get it wrong and have the wrong first name, or say if you're targeting, I've had this happen before where one of the leads is a doctor and it has like doctor as their first name and like not their actual first name. And so imagine it, you send an email to them, it's like, hi doctor. I mean, that might look fine, but it's just, you should really put their first name. Or sometimes the first name column has their first name and the initial of their surname. So if someone sent me an email, went, hi Liam D, again, like straight away I know that's dodgy. So you just want to manually review, I'll show you some automated methods as well, but you just want to review your contact data, just ensure everything's good. Another one is company names. So typically company names will have these like excess letters, prefixes and suffixes. If somebody sent me an email and said, hey, Liam, I saw you're working at DGC Limited. Again, like you would never say that in a conversation to someone. You would never say limited. You'd never say LLP or partnership or anything like that. And so if you're saying that in an email, it kind of gives the game away right away. And then also just make sure you're targeting the right people. Again, if you're, what you say to a CMO is going to be very different to a CRO or VP of sales or a founder, CEO. And so just, it's the right thing to do, ensuring that you're sending relevant messages to people. And so, kind of analogy here. So if a job candidate is late to their first job interview with you, even if they smash that interview with flying colors, they're an A++ candidate, the fact that they were late to their first job interview will still be on your mind, because it's a matter of basic professionalism and organization, right? Even if they smash the interview, in your mind, you're still going to be thinking, why were they late? Are they disorganized? This has been on the calendar for days. That's still going to grate at you. And so don't give prospects a reason to disqualify you because you forgot to format their name or their company name, or you sent them the wrong message. Don't give them a reason to disqualify you and mark you as spam. Simple way to avoid making mistakes with company names is just to avoid using them altogether. I've personally tested this, not using company domains, and didn't really see a difference. If you have to use them, then just make sure you're cleaning and formatting your data. I actually created an app script that will format your data automatically for you. So you can just add this code into the custom scripts in Google Sheets, and this button will appear, clean data. So all you do is you just change the column, and then you click that button and it will clean your data automatically. If you need this script, just send me a message and I'll send it over to you. So that's a way of doing it automatically. Of course, the alternative is just, ye old faithful, doing it manually. So a lot of this manual tedious work can be done automatically via, if you're going to use the app scripts, if you're going to use, a GPT plugin. If you're going to use something like Clay, they have kind of features that do this automatically as well. Or if you just want to keep it basic, you can just delegate this to someone else, whether it be in-house team member or hire an offshore contractor to do this. As long as you have SOPs that, just guide them step by step through this process, it can easily be taken off your plate. Realistically, should you be spending your time, spending hours a week in spreadsheets, deleting letters and numbers? Probably not, right? So this is something you want to delegate or automate. So yeah, these are just some like SOPs I had internally that I outsource this. So summary for leads then. So in terms of ease, database tools, scrapers, aggregators, because the market is so competitive at the moment, a lot of these tools kind of do the same thing. And so just, shop around for a bit. Make sure to verify your data or use a product that has verification built in. Can't stress this enough. This is actually one of the reasons if I refer back to that example of that person I spoke to, their company's domain got blacklisted. One of the reasons that happened is because they weren't verifying their contact data. They were just trusting, I think it was Apollo or reply.io. They were just trusting the data they gave them. And then the entire A to Z of lead management can easily be automated or delegated with the right systems in place. Again, you should be working on higher leverage tasks. A lot of this can be delegated or outsourced. Okay, moving on. So creating high performing campaigns. So this is the money making stage, right? We've got the infrastructure set up. We've got a list of leads. Well, what do we actually say to those leads? And this is, probably the most important step, right? The other stuff is kind of like table stakes. This is where, everyone in the world can know how to set up secondary domains. They can know how to clean leads. But if you don't know how to write effective cold emails, then again, you're not going to convert. So most people fail due to these reasons. So number one, they aren't distributing an offer. Number two, they are unable to turn messaging into copywriting. And number three, the velocity of experimentation is not great enough. So if we look at this is from something a concept we teach in at growsas.com is the hierarchy of impact. So in the middle, we have the offer layer. This is like your product, the product you offer, the product you have and the offers you use. And why this is the most important in the hierarchy of impact is because, you can be the greatest cold emailer in the world. You can have the best subject lines, et cetera, but if you don't have something people want, if you don't have a good offer, if you don't have a good product, then you're never going to convert, right? And so it's always, the number one important thing is your offer. We then move out to the message layer. So messaging is different to copywriting. Messaging is the building blocks of your company. It's how you differ to competitors. It's why you exist, the problems you solve, the change you see in the market, all of that good stuff. And so here it's the messaging, your positioning, and the people you're targeting. And then we move on to the creative layer. So this is like things like ad creatives, the copywriting, the angles you use. Again, like your copy is only as good as the messaging you have, right? You can't write copy without knowing who you're targeting and what problems they have and how you're unique to competitors. And then we move on to the tactical layer, which is tactics, process, tools, right? And this is where most people focus. They're like, my cold emails aren't working. I need to change my software, or it's this platform's fault, or we're not doing it the right way. Whereas most of the time it's because they have an offer problem, or they just don't understand their audience deep enough, or they haven't positioned themselves uniquely against existing competitors. So just always think about this, the hierarchy of impact. Most of the time you have an offer problem or a message problem. Okay, so to expand on these 3 points here. So not distributing an offer. So by definition, with cold outbound, you are contacting cold prospects who likely don't know who you are, right? These are strangers. They don't know who you are. They don't know what your product does. They don't even care about it, and they don't trust you. Kind of similar to new secondary domains, you're default suspicious. And so these people owe you nothing, right? You're disturbing their day by emailing them. And so the best way to break past this barrier is by offering them something that is relevant and would be, irresponsible to refuse. It has so much value that they'd be silly to say no. And I'll dig into that, what I mean by that. So really important that you're distributing offers. Inability to turn messaging into copywriting then. So as I said, messaging and copywriting are not the same, right? Messaging is the building blocks of your company's value proposition. It tells us why you exist, what makes you unique when compared to competitors, what problems your target audience has, and how your product solves these problems. That's messaging. Copywriting is how you communicate these things. And copywriting changes, right? It changes based on geography, persona, tone of voice, channel, medium, amongst many other factors, right? How you communicate to people on LinkedIn is going to differ how you communicate to people on Facebook. How you communicate to people over email is going to be different to how you communicate to people on your website. This is copywriting. Whereas if you have weak foundations, i.e. your messaging is bad, then your copywriting is always going to be bad. So using an example with a pizza, messaging, you might talk about, how you have fresh Italian ingredients, secret family recipes. This is how you position yourself against competitors. These are like the foundational elements. You have wood-fired pizza. Whereas copywriting, okay, well, let's say you notice the most profitable segment in your local market are families. And so, well, with copywriting, that's where you might talk about specific things that attracts families, shareable pizza, bringing the family together. You might use visuals that have a picture of a family sharing pizza. This is all like copywriting and creative. And then let's say you want to target like foodies. You want foodies to come and take pictures and, create user-generated content. Well, here you might talk about things foodies care about, like, gourmet pizzas, truffle oil, burrata, all these things that foodies might care about. And so this stuff stays the same, right? It's still secret family recipes, fresh Italian ingredients, still wood-fired pizzas, but depending on who you want to target and what problems and desires they have, well, then that's copywriting. It's kind of like the last mile of the race that changes. If it's built on weak foundations, if you're just selling frozen pizza, that's, put in a microwave, well, it doesn't matter, what pictures you use or what words you use, right? You're built on weak foundations. So you might be great at copywriting, but if the thing you're selling is bad, it's not uniquely positioned against existing solutions, or you're just simply targeting the wrong people, you won't succeed long term. So hence why the hierarchy of impact, hence why it goes offer, message, then creative, right? Okay. So SaaS companies have a habit of overcomplicating things. So you need to get clear on the people, companies you're targeting and speak in their language and offer them something they care about. So copy is like the tip of the iceberg, right? But underneath, what creates good copy is, well, first of all, you have to have a good product, which means, use cases, capabilities, integrations, the technologies it has. And then you have, your messaging, which is like your value proposition, who you're targeting, how it compares against competitors. You have all of these really important foundational things. The copy you write is just the tip of the iceberg, right? If all of this stuff, all of the foundations are rubbish, like you don't have a good product or it's not positioned in a way that makes it attractive, then it doesn't matter what copy you write or what words you use, right? Sure, you might get someone to hop on a call, but as soon as you show them your product, then you're going to give the show away and they're not going to convert. So really, really important to understand that this stuff at the top is only as good as this stuff at the bottom. And so then talking about experimentation. So this is where a lot of people go wrong. Again, cold email 3.0 isn't just about automation and using different tools. It's about actually the methods underneath. So whatever you think is the appropriate volume of experimentation, you need to multiply that by 3. Like genuinely, I mean this. There's a clear correlation between successful companies and people and how much they test. So you can do this using the scientific method of build, measure, learn to iterate your marketing. So here's a screenshot of the founder of AdCreative.ai. They grew from 0 to 40 million ARR in 18 months, like unheard of, probably one of the fastest, companies to hit that revenue number in the world, in the history of humans, probably. And here he said, they tested in 1 week, 80 ad creatives. That's the kind of velocity, you need to be aiming for. Sure, that might be a bit extreme, but just to show you that there's a clear correlation between success and how much you test, how much you experiment. And this is what it looks like in reality, right? You're going to start over here on the left is where, you've tested a bunch of variables and really most of what you've done has failed, but then, you know, you've won in a couple of spaces. This could be like a good subject line. It could be like a good call to action or an offer you've got on your email. And so then you just iterate over time, and eventually you start to win more than lose, right? Okay, how can I replicate the winning variables here in my next campaign? And you do that, and then you find another winning variable, and then you find another winning variable, and then you find another winning variable until you know, the probability of you winning far exceeds the probability of you losing. And this is what experimentation looks like. You know, at the beginning, it feels like you're eating crap, and, you know, there's an uphill battle. Everything seems to be going wrong. But after months and months of testing, like ruthless testing, you know, you start to find those winning variables until you know, you eventually get to the point where you can just create a winning campaign because you have so much data and you've tested so much that you just know what will work with your target audience because you just understand them on a deep level. Okay, so moving on to messaging then. So unless you are doing high value ABM, and by that I mean you're selling contracts at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and, you know, your sales process is really long and it requires high touch, then unless you're doing that, there is absolutely no reason for you to be manually writing every email that is sent to prospects in 2024. You know, this is the competition, right? This person here, sorry to call you out, but, you know, they're using links in their email, they're using images in their signature, links down, like, you know, there's links, there's images. So if you think that people are, you know, most people are still writing crap emails, right? Despite all the information that's out there, despite, you know, how much the space has advanced, a lot of people are still doing things the old way. And so if you can just really understand this and craft good emails, then you're going to stand out. You know, this is the competition. So some principles to keep in mind then, be clear, you know, get to the point and make it easy for people to understand. Again, you're prospecting into cold audiences, you know, strangers who have never heard of you before. You're disrupting their day. And so you need to make it abundantly clear, you know, why you're reaching out, why they should care, and why they should trust you. Good principle is to keep your word count under 100 words, just short, snappy sentences optimized for readability. If you're sending people paragraphs of text, it's just going to be jarring, and, you know, they're not going to go through it. Remember, it's about them, not you. So pass what's in it for me test. So they need to read your copy, your email, and understand, okay, what do I get out of this? Why should I care? Why is this relevant for me? You know, look at your copy through that lens. And relevancy always trumps personalization. So people think, you know, manually doing research, like, you know, commenting about what university someone went to, or a recent blog post on their company's website, or, you know, something from their bio in LinkedIn. People think this is the way to stand out in email. It's not, right? Like, people don't, you know, saying what university somebody went to or a recent blog post, people don't care about that. What people do care about is solving problems that are annoying them right now. For example, if I'm hiring for someone right now, then if someone appears in my inbox with, you know, a short list of candidates that are relevant to my job description, then I'm probably going to care about that. If, you know, I'm trying to bring in a new capability to my company that's aligned with, you know, my OKRs, and someone comes into my inbox with a solution to that specific problem, I'm going to care far more about that than, you know, somebody commenting on what college or university I went to, right? So relevancy always trumps personalization. Subject lines. So this is something that people overthink about. So the best subject lines are short, they're casual, and they appear to be from colleagues, customers, or associates, right? So the thing you don't want to do is, the subject line is probably the first thing that people see. And so you want your email to appear as though it's just like something casual coming from a colleague or someone in their network, right? When you send an email to a colleague or to a friend or to someone you're connected to, you don't like write very formal subject lines, right? You probably just use one word or two words. So again, think from that perspective. You know, I've sent over 1 million emails, and most of them have a variation of the subject line quick question. But I will say this subject line has been absolutely hammered. And I think it's gone to the point where if you use this subject line, it pisses people off. But if you can't think of a subject line yourself, you know, just default back to a variation of this. You know, quick question. That's something like your boss or, you know, a peer or a colleague would send to you, right? It's very informal, conversational. It doesn't give away that there's a pitch about to happen. So don't overthink it. You know, if your product is in the project management space, you know, it could be question about projects, project delivery, project status, project reports, right? these all appear to be, internal emails. That's the kind of vibe you want to go for with this. Okay, moving on, lower in the email, the body text. So there's many ways to skin this cat. And it's really tough to give like this 100% works every time formula. That just simply doesn't exist. There needs to be an element of creativity here. But, I just wanted to give you some frameworks and heuristics that you can use to test for yourself. So openers, this is like the first thing you say when you send an email to someone. So there's a few types of openers. You've got non-personalized, which is just like a generic compliment or statement that can be relevant for your entire lead list. So something I've used, I'm not ashamed to admit it, in the past is just, hey, just came across a piece of content by your company. I've always targeted online companies, internet companies, and most companies post content. And so this was just kind of it was relevant for most people, and it worked. Segmentation, this is where you personalize the email based on the lead list that you're contacting. So for example, if you're targeting people in North America or people in a certain city, you can comment on things about that city or country. If you're targeting people who all have the same occupation, again, you could make a comment about something that occupation cares about, and it's going to be relevant for everyone, the industry they're in, etc. So you're personalizing it based on your lead list, but you're not personalizing it for every individual. And then you have AI. So this is a bit more advanced, where you use AI to automate the personalization of your opener. And this is where you can write emails that are personalized to and relevant for that specific individual rather than more broad. So some examples, the non-personalized one which I gave, segmentation. So let's say you're targeting RevOps leaders in the UK. Random thought, I spoke with other UK-based RevOps leaders a couple of days ago, so this is going to be relevant to them. Go like, oh, that's me. Those are probably my peers. I want to listen to what you have to say. AI, you can go to the level of where, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, where you can monitor for negative reviews on review sites. And as soon as you come across one, you can basically use that to trigger an email sequence and comment on it, right? So, this looks like something you would do manually, but this is all done programmatically. That's kind of the level you can go to with AI. You can even monitor like Google reviews. You can, reference the name of the person who gave the review. All of that stuff you can do programmatically with AI, which will easily take you 5-10 minutes if you were to do it manually. So that's openers, different types of openers you can do here. Something to test for yourself. AI isn't going to be best. I need to make that important. It's not always going to be the best. Sometimes it's the craziest, most non-conventional emails that outperform everything else. Meat and potatoes then. So this is kind of the main bulk of the email. So there's a few key things you should try to have in the main bulk of the email. So an offer, we've talked about this. So, what outcome you will deliver, how it's delivered, and any other stipulations you have in your offer, such as risk reversal or guarantees. I think we come on to offers in this video. Social proof. As I said at the beginning of this video, it's easy to make claims. Anyone can make claims, tell you what to do, how to do it, how I'm the best thing since sliced bread. But what's really hard to fake is actual, quantifiable evidence that those claims are real, right? So this is always going to trump, anything else. Specificity. So again, making sure your message is relevant to the person you're contacting. So, their problems, benefits, even the offer that you're giving them should all be relevant to the target persona you're targeting. So some examples of this. So here's a probing question plus one sentence case study. So the probing question is, so I think this is for the RevOps leaders. Yeah. So are your teams spending too much time on repetitive admin tasks inside HubSpot? So we're calling out the problem that RevOps teams care about. We're calling out a specific platform that they're using. So we would use technographics to target this lead list. If you send that to someone who doesn't use HubSpot, then they're just going to mark your email as spam. And then we're going into the one sentence case study. So we recently helped the RevOps team. So something relevant, specific to what they care about. At Acme, save 7 hours per week, quantifiable outcome due to our co-pilot that lives inside Slack. So, we're talking about a problem. We're talking about technology they use, so it's relevant to their day-to-day workflows. We're calling out a similar team that we've helped, the quantifiable outcome of how we help them. And then we're introducing how we help them, which is our co-pilot that lives in Slack. So we're not talking about like features. We're not talking about product capabilities. We have all these like integrations and here's why our product is so cool. we've just said, you have this problem. I know you're using this tool. Here's how we helped other people like you. Very, very like to the point, right? This is going to perform good rather than just saying, listing out your product features. Another example, a problem statement plus the one sentence case study. So problem statement could be, we're helping other RevOps leaders, so a relevant group of people that are tired of team productivity being wasted, so a problem that these people care about, on low-level admin tasks inside HubSpot. So it's kind of similar to the probing question, but we've just framed it in another way. And then we go again into the one-sentence case study. So we're just, again, exact same as this, quantifiable outcome, how it's delivered, and then a desire that they have, right? Why RevOps exists is to make sales teams' lives easier, basically, right? Is to reduce the sales cycle length, deal with all the operational aspects, right? And the main aim is for, sales velocity increases, right? That's why RevOps exists. And then more of like an unconventional method is the one sentence email. So as I've said, sometimes it's the most unconventional emails that you just didn't even think twice about. You just kind of, just wrote it. Sometimes those are going to be the best performing emails. So, again, there's no science to this. Sometimes it just works. And so you need to test some of these things. So here we go. Curious, would you be interested to increase your team's productivity through spending less time on low-level admin tasks in HubSpot? Have a few ideas. I would edit this. There needs to be some grammar in there. That's a very, very punchy, wordy sentence. But again, it's just kind of, real short and snappy. It looks conversational. It looks casual. Doesn't look like it's automated. We're highlighting the desire, which is team's productivity, the problem, low-level admin tasks, the platform they use in HubSpot. So it's relevant to the person we're targeting, but it's just very like conversational. We're not like, following this sort of conventional structure. Some frameworks to give you then when writing emails. So we've got the 3C framework. This is something I've used extensively, which breaks down into complement. So this is a short complement that's either non-personalized, done by segmentation or AI, the methods we talked through. You then introduce a case study, which is a one-sentence case study, and then a call to action. So very simple. Complement, just saw a post by you guys on LinkedIn, big fan of the approach to community. One-sentence case study, and then call to action. So very, very simple, short, snappy. We're not telling them our whole life story. We then got 4T, which is trigger, which is a quick flash of context to help them understand why you're emailing them. Think, so like a probing question. Third-party credibility, so social proof, and then talk, like gauge interest. So the trigger is you're probably not a fan of team productivity being wasted on low-level admin tasks in HubSpot. Get them to think, is this something that's affecting your deal flow? So we're trying to, attach that problem to an outcome that they care about. Then the third-party credibility, so we're name-dropping people. The world's a small place. You probably know these people. Quantifying the outcome, and then, gauging interest with a question at the end. So those are a couple of frameworks to use. Let's keep it going. And then we have call to action. So there are two types of call to actions. There are hard ones and there are soft ones. So hard call to actions, these can be described as ones that push directly for an action, such as, you're free for a call, won't be a good time to chat, interested to see a demo, would you like to hop on a call, all of that kind of stuff. We're pushing them for like an action. And this is what most people use. And so these hard call to actions will often result in lower reply rates, but tend to see, and this is something I've tested myself, is you tend to see a higher reply to meeting conversion rate. So the replies tend to be higher quality, and therefore, the conversion rate from reply to meeting to opportunity is better because they have higher intent, right? If somebody says yes to a meeting, then that's far higher intent than saying yes to, a piece of content. However, most people do have a natural resistance to sales. So you will get less yeses. So my recommendation is to always use a soft call to action variation, but something to test for yourself. Like people simply don't like giving their time to strangers. It's a big ask. And so I've just seen more success using soft call to actions, but something to test for yourself. Don't take everything I say verbatim. Okay, so that's hard. Soft call to actions. These are ones that don't push directly for an action. Instead, you're just, gauging the interest of a prospect. You're keeping it low friction, using like questions like, can I send more information? Would you be the best person to speak with? Does that sound interesting to you, etc. It's a softer approach. What you want to do when you're using soft call to actions, though, is, again, we're approaching cold prospects here. We want to make life easy for them. And so just reduce friction. A good way to do this is by asking close-ended questions, right? For example, does this sound interesting to you? All they have to say is yes or no. Can I send more information across? Yes or no. We're not leaving it open to interpretation. We're not asking them to, tell us what problems they have, and we're not making them do any work. It's just yes or no, right? That's all we're aiming for in cold email is a yes or no, because then we can move on to the next step. The danger zone is the gray area, like, the maybes, like, well, should I spend more time in this or should I not? And then to make the response more desirable is, the actual what you're offering them in your soft call to action needs to actually be desirable, right? And so a good way to do that is by offering free value or a sales asset. And I'm going to talk about those type of offers later in this video, like what should you actually offer people. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is the way to stand out with cold email in 2024. Everyone is asking for people's time. Again, test that. But the way to stand out with cold email in 2024 is this softer approach, having sales assets that, increase the awareness of prospects, position you as a better, faster, cheaper product than other people in the market, and they do the selling for you. This is the best way to win in 2024, and I'll come on to that in later. So using AI to programmatically research and write email copy. So I have a lot of information, some recorded content on this. We talk about this in growsas.com as well, but it's a separate beast in itself. I can do separate videos just really digging into using tools like Clay or like programmatic research and messaging. If you'd like me to do that, just let me know. But what I would recommend is always start with the basics, understand how to find leads, set up the infrastructure, how to like the frameworks of writing copy. Then you can slap on things like automation, kind of similar to, do things that don't scale. Don't skip straight to automation and delegation and outsourcing things. Like, as a founder, you should understand how things work in your business before, skip into automation or getting somebody else to do it, right? And so that applies for this as well. Otherwise, how can you manage or guide people or systems if you don't know how to do the thing yourself? So I can do extra videos on like AI messaging and stuff like that. Just let me know if that'd be interesting. And then a quick note on follow-ups. So what we've talked about here is mostly like the first message. So for like the length of your email sequence, 3 to 4 emails should be enough. Don't go sending 10 emails over a period of like 60 days. There used to be this old school of thought that the more emails you send, the better chance of replies. I don't think that's true. So yeah, short email sequences. After about 100 days, if somebody doesn't respond, you can recycle them back into your campaign. Anything shorter than that, you're going to annoy people, and it's just, not best practice. You don't want to be spamming people. If they don't respond like 2 times, then I would just, mark that lead as not interested and then come back to them in several months where the timing might be better. In the follow-up email, so we're actually going to just follow the same principles as if the follow-up emails are the first email you've ever sent to the prospect. You want to avoid the classic, thoughts ? Or, just following up on this, like, what do you think? We need to make it easy for the prospect to understand what's in it for them. So if you think about, you might send a 4 email sequence, but the prospect might not open your email, or they might open it, but they might not fully read your email until like the 3rd email or something. And so if they open your 3rd email and it's just like thoughts or what do you think, John? Well, they don't have the context of, why you've reached out, why they should trust you, and why should they care if you're just writing thoughts or, what do you think about this? And so every email you send should be sent through should be thought about through the perspective of, okay, this could be the first email they open from me or the first email they read, right? And so, yeah, don't do that lazy thoughts, just following up. Every email should follow the same principles of what we talked through previously. Okay, moving on. So Spintax. So Spintax stands for spinning syntax, and it's a method to avoid fingerprinting. So if you're sending the exact same email to hundreds, thousands of leads, it's going to be flagged as spam, right? These ESPs, they do something called fingerprinting, which is basically they're just monitoring the content of your email. And if you're saying the exact same things, that looks spammy, right? Because real people, humans don't do that, right? You don't send the exact same email to a bunch of people. And so it looks dodgy. And so using Spintax allows you to easily create, several, and by several, I mean dozens, hundreds, thousands of unique variations of one email. And it's just a key part to avoid fingerprinting and preserve your sender reputation. So here's one email that I've put through this Spintax GPT, which if you want the link or just search, I think it's called Spintax Baby on the GPT store. So one email, we've added Spintax to it, and it now has 729 unique variations due to Spintax. So every time this email is sent out to someone, the Spintax does its thing and it creates a new variation of this email. And so, it's just going to avoid us being flagged as just sending the same email to people. So really, really important step. Most people aren't doing this today, and it's just an easy win, right? It doesn't take any effort. And so just to kind of, if this is the first time you've heard of it, so as we can see, it calls a random function here. And we've got hi, hello, hey. And so for this bit of Spintax here, every time this email is sent, the Spintax is called and it randomly chooses between hi, hello, hey. And it does that for all of these things. So it would be like, hi, I'd love to learn. Hello, I'd love to hear, right? So all unique variations. Don't need to understand it to a great detail. Just you can use this GPT and it's going to do it for you. So this is a screenshot of me doing it. Hi, hello, how are you? And then it created multiple variations. Okay, testing and optimization then. So there are 3 key variables required to run effective tests: ideas, measurement, and learning. So without ideas, you have nothing to test. Without measurement, you're never going to know if your hypothesis is validated. The thing you're testing, you're never going to know if it worked or not. And without learnings, you're never going to improve, right? These experiments you're running, you need to know what's the next action. Oh, I need to do more of that, or I need to do less of that, right? Those are learnings. So with ideas, the volume and efficacy of your ideas is a function of your market understanding. So the deeper you understand your market and its participants, the sharper you will be, right? So how to get ideas of what to test, interview customers, interview cold prospects, sales call reviews, using tools like Read AI, onboarding call reviews, just really being amongst your market, right? And if you want any tips, tricks on this, again, this is something we share in Grow SaaS, the exact questions to ask, how to even request these interviews, how to increase the probability of those interviews happening, how to analyze the responses, all this stuff we go into great detail. If you want access to any resources, just let me know. And so then we use these insights to fuel your tests, right? So in individual campaigns, you will see more success by experimenting with macro variables, such as the entire angle, the call to action or the offer you're using, rather than these small micro details like, oh, should I say hey, or should I say hello, or, should I use this word instead of this word, right? Testing macro things like changing the entire offer or targeting an entirely different segment of the market, that's going to have far bigger impacts than these small micro optimizations. So as I said here, like more impactful than this stuff is, just launching entirely different campaigns. Okay, this campaign targets VP of sales. All right, maybe I need to go a bit lower, like a sales team lead or a sales rep. Or instead of targeting this industry, maybe I should target this industry. Like you're going to see a far bigger delta in results by taking those big swings, geographies, the entire value proposition of how you communicate your product. That's going to give you far better learnings than just, the first word you use in an email. So that's ideas. Measurement, just get in the habit of reviewing your numbers every week. When you first start, there might not be much statistical significance in your campaigns. Campaign A got 2 more replies than campaign B. That's not really significant, but over time, you will get statistical significance, and even just you'll learn and get smarter over time as you test new things. So you want to be, in your numbers every week, reviewing, what lead lists performed well, what personas are replying positively, what steps within a campaign are performing better than others, and just all like the general sentiment towards campaigns. Are people just telling you to, go get stuffed? Are people replying negatively? Is the bounce rate of certain campaigns worse than others? Like, you should, have your finger on the pulse with all of these things. Otherwise, you're just, operating blind. And yeah, so it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day. You're juggling many plates. So actually quantitatively tracking these campaigns ensures that you can remain objective. Like, did this campaign perform well or not? Okay, compared with this other campaign, what's the best campaign? Rather than if you're just leaving it to chance and you're not tracking your numbers, that becomes a lot harder. And so yeah, getting technical. If you want to run like true experiments or as controlled as much as possible, then you should be aiming for the holy trinity, right? P-value of 0.05 or less, which is 95% significance, statistical power of 80%, and a large enough sample size, right? If you've only sent 100 emails, you're never going to get statistical significance on that. So if the first time you've heard of these things, just search for a statistical significance calculator online. You can just input some numbers and it will do the magic for you. Learnings then. So specific steps might perform better than others in individual campaigns, but over time you'll begin to gain a better understanding of what angles work best, what audience resonates the most with your campaigns, what problems they care about the most, and the right things to say to perk their ears up. So you use these insights to get smarter, make changes, and inform tests, right? By quantitatively measuring your campaigns, by even going down to the degree of what personas are reacting more positively, what steps within the campaign are performing better than others. You'll start to build that picture. Okay, this email from campaign 1 performs good. These emails from campaign 2 performs good. And then you can start to run new experiments with those winning variables and then testing new variables. So again, over time, you're just getting smarter and building this picture of what works and what doesn't. Okay, so bigger picture though, it's very easy to get, lost in the details, the tactical stuff. You need to sometimes think about the bigger picture here, the funnel, the buyer's journey, other factors that might be affecting your campaigns. And again, similar to like your offer, sometimes it's the external factors that are going to have a bigger impact on your campaigns than, a different subject line or like a different greeting. If you're able to make improvements lower in the funnel, it's going to drive significantly more impact than, optimizing your open rate or your reply rate, right? If you can convert more meetings into customers, even just a 10, 20% improvement here is going to affect your top line, bottom line, rather than improving your open rate by 10, 20, 30% is going to have a far less impact. So it's important to not just be tracking your individual campaigns, but also your entire outbound motion as a whole. How many replies are you getting? How many of those are turning into positive replies, meetings, qualified opportunities, customers, whatever your buyer journey looks like? It's important to also be tracking these things, because let's say your close rate of opportunities into customers is poor. Well, then maybe that's where you need to focus your efforts rather than getting more people to open your email. So always important to just know your numbers, right? Tracking the individual campaigns, but also tracking the bigger picture as well. So you're not selling $20 t-shirts or supplements. You're selling solutions to businesses. Therefore, it's highly unlikely someone is going to open an email, book a meeting, and purchase your product without doing their research, right? And the same can be said for every marketing channel. If your ARPU, average revenue per user, is above 5K per year, typically to purchase your product, it's going to involve multiple stakeholders, and it's going to take time, right? This is the difference between B2B and B2C. You can see an advert on Instagram for a t-shirt, click it, impulse decision, just buy it right away. That rarely happens in B2B. It takes, several dozens touch points to research, engage with the company and ultimately buy a software product. And so you need to think about those different moments in the buyer's journey and how you can influence them. And even if you're less than $5,000 a year, you're likely operating in a competitive market, right? There are a lot of far more software products are being built than previously, and so most product categories are really competitive. And so if a buyer is presented with a choice of 5 different products, well, they're likely to go with the product or the company of whom they know, they like, and they trust, right? Even if product A maybe has more features or capabilities, if that buyer is more familiar with product B, they trust them more, they have better case studies or testimonials, even if the product isn't as good as product A, they're going to go with product B, right? And so this is what I mean about bigger picture, is if you're just a stranger on the internet sending cold emails to people, you have no case studies, no testimonials, your website doesn't convey your value proposition effectively, or it doesn't resonate with your target audience, these are silent killers. Nobody's going to respond to your email and say, hey, I was going to book a meeting, but your website's actually pretty crap, or you didn't have any case studies. They're just not going to reply to you, right? And so these are the biggest levers to pull when it comes to any kind of marketing, really. And so, think of the hierarchy of impact, right? Cold email is kind of at the tactical level, it's a channel. Whereas, do you actually have something people want? Are you positioning it in a way that is unique against competitors? Links to the fears, desires, wants of your target audience. This is where the impact is. It's easy to, sometimes it's easy to forget that these buyers are real people, right? They don't just click an ad and purchase a product. They're going to shop around. They're going to look at your website. They're going to search you on social media. They're going to look at review websites to see what people say about your product. They're going to message their friends and say, hey, have you used product A? What do you think of it? Most people today are in private Slack communities with their peers. They have networks. They're not just going to go to your website and buy. They're going to do their own research. And so if you can influence those moments and build trust with people and become familiar, you're going to get far better results than people that don't. And so having brand affinity and proof of concepts will improve your conversions more than any tactical experiment will, right? If you have quantifiable, evidence that your product does the thing that you're claiming in your marketing, then that's going to perform far better than any, subject line or call to action. Ask yourself, am I positioned as trustworthy as well as better, faster, cheaper than other solutions? If the answer to that question is no, then I would focus on those things there. Getting a proof of concept that your product actually delivers outcomes and it benefits people, having quantifiable proof, and also just thinking about your wider funnel. What is the buyer's journey? Does my website convey my value proposition effectively? Stuff like that, really, really important. Am I trustworthy on social media? Have I presented myself in a professional way? What do I post about? All that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's bigger picture. Moving on to campaign types then. So not all campaigns are the same, right? As previously mentioned, macro tests such as changing your entire value proposition or offer is going to result in bigger improvements than these micro tests, subject line, like copy and stuff like that. And so the easiest thing to do in cold outbound is push for a sales meeting. Combine that with how easy and simple it is to do cold outbound today. Directly pushing for a sales meeting is not recommended because everyone is doing it. Everyone is pushing for a sales meeting. Everyone's choosing the path of least resistance, right? Everyone just wants the shortcut. And so if you're willing to not go down that path and put a bit of extra effort in and kind of take on that sort of operational intensity onto your side rather than the prospects, it's just such an easy way to win. And so what I'm about to talk through in this next section takes significantly more effort to do, but it will result in exponentially more conversions, right? I can't emphasize that enough. It's going to be more work, it's going to be harder, but you will just experience such better growth than if you were to not do it. And so if growth is a priority for yours, you're sitting there and you're like, I want to get cold email to work. I'm not happy with the current growth of my company. We're running out of cash. If those things are problems you're facing and, growth is a priority of yours, then, taking that harder path and standing out and getting more conversion should be an easy choice, right? Most people are going to pick the easy option. And so again, this is another way you stand out, right? When cold email is easy to do and everyone's doing it, it's people that kind of zig while others are zagging. They're the ones that are going to stand out. A caveat here, though, is that if your product is truly irresistible, it's just so good, it's just like an absolute no-brainer, then the extent of which you have to use these tactics is far lower than products that would be considered otherwise not, right? If you haven't sold product market fit, then assume you are the latter. Let me just kind of rephrase that. If you have a product that is truly irresistible, you have really good case studies and testimonials, and your product is directly linked to like a business outcome, then if we refer back to the hierarchy of impact, then what you kind of do on the creative and tactical layer doesn't really matter too much because you just have something people want, right? They're just going to pull it out of your hands. Whereas if your product isn't so irresistible, and so maybe you haven't reached product market fit, you're still kind of finding your feet in the market, then the emphasis you have to put on like your marketing and the sort of extents you have to go to stand out are going to be far greater than the people with the irresistible product. So hopefully that makes sense, right? It's kind of, I guess another way to say this is, if your product isn't truly irresistible, then, well, first of all, you should be focusing on that. But secondly, you kind of then have to work harder than other people. Okay, so one campaign type is asset-based outbound. So an asset can be defined as a resource or piece of content that builds awareness, attracts qualified leads, and accelerates your sales cycle. So ideally, an asset should not directly pitch your product's features. This is just going to repel the consumer, right? Everyone is sick and tired of being sold to, because if you just think of market sophistication, it's just very busy. There's lots of products out there. There's a lot of hungry companies that have to grow fast because, their investors are breathing down the neck. And so then you have a bunch of sales teams with commission breath that are, using shady tactics and bothering prospects all the time. And so people are sick and tired of being sold to, right? And so if you just send people an asset that is just like, a straight product pitch, then it's just not going to work, right? And so what you should do instead is you need to create assets that have utility, right? So by utility, I mean the product delivers value, the asset delivers value to the consumer in terms of like helping them achieve an outcome. So whether that be leveling up their knowledge, teaching them about things, concepts they didn't know about before, or they didn't have much insight into, or helping them learn a new skill, or just like a business outcome, helping them get somewhere, right? That's utility. Actually being useful, in simple terms. And the secret sauce is linking that utility back to your product's value proposition, right? There needs to be a link back to your product. Otherwise, you're just going to be helping people and they're going to be like, cheers, thank you. And they're going to run off into the woods, right? And they're never going to buy your product. So it needs to link back to your product's value proposition. And if you get this right, these assets they'll have strangers booking calls with you and speaking with you like you've been associated for years, right? This is the effect of having a parasocial relationship. There's a rule, I'm not sure if I talk about it here, called the 7-hour rule, right? Where, on average, it's not so absolute, but it takes roughly 7 hours for a cold prospect who's never heard of you before to be in a position where they're comfortable to buy from you. 7 hours, right? And so a couple of emails isn't going to be 7 hours. Even watching this video isn't 7 hours. Assets, where you put a lot of effort into and have utility and help people achieve some kind of outcome, you're going to reduce that time massively. And I've had this experience. I've experienced this myself, right? Like, here's an example of a prospect chasing me, right? Because I sent them a really good asset, and then they were like, okay, I want to work with this person. So, they started chasing me, which is kind of a switch in roles. And then this person, so, myself and 2 other directors would love to chat, see if there's a possible way we can work together. Literally proactively reaching out to me and looking for ways to work with me because of the asset I created and sent to them was so useful that they were like, okay, we trust this guy. He clearly has experience. How do we work with him? He can clearly benefit our company. That's kind of the level you want to get to. So the magic word is utility, right? There are 2 states, current and desired. So where we, me and you, and including your target audience, are today is our current state. That's where we are right now. We are all trying to get to a desired state, whether that be, related to wealth, health, status, or relationships. We're trying to make more money. We're trying to get to that dream exit. We're trying to buy that house. We're trying to find a partner and get married, or we're trying to, get in shape. These are all desires that people have. And so to get to that desired state, a series of actions or activities must be completed. And typically there's a change agent that is the mechanism that facilitates that change, right? To get from where you are today to that desired state, it doesn't just happen. You don't just teleport there. There are a series of actions you need to take. And typically there's like, a change agent in the picture. I've lost where I am. Yeah, so the wider the gap between current and desired, the more painful a person's situation is, which means the urgency at which they desire that change is greater, and the bigger the price you can pay, right? If someone is like, severely not happy with their body, So let's say, they're really overweight or they have like health complications, and, they desire for that all to go away. They're going to have, the gap is going to be larger for them than somebody who doesn't have those problems. So they'd probably be willing to pay far more than somebody else, right? And so to give, I think I have an example in the business context here. So let's say the current state is you are struggling to get traction and efficiently grow your startup. And the desired state for you is you want to solve product market fit. And you want predictable, efficient growth, a company that doesn't rely on you to grow, for you to reach that inflection point of, uphill battle, just, eating crap for years, to where, okay, I've actually built something people want and I have predictable growth. Okay, so current state, desired state. Now, a change agent to make that happen could be, proven, having proven methodologies and expert coaching, to get to that desired state. Someone who has, a track record of doing those things and can sort of guide you to that desired state. That could be a change agent. Whereas the actions, you still have to take actions to get there. Well, that could be like, okay, well, if I want to reach product market fit, well, first of all, I need to understand my market, right? I need to define who I'm serving, what problems they have, what they care about, how urgent those problems are, what price they're willing to pay. You then need to develop a message that speaks to those problems and conveys your product's value proposition. You need to validate that message actually works, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the actions you would take to get from your current state of struggling to product market fit, right? You can't just teleport right there. That's impossible. There are a series of actions you need to take. And a change agent, you could do those actions by yourself, or a change agent could kind of speeding up that sort of that process. And so if you're aware of your prospect's current state, their desired state, and how your product facilitates that change, so how your product is the change agent, then you can reverse engineer the activities that must be completed. And so these activities I'm talking about here, these can become the topics of the assets that you distribute in your campaigns. And why you want to look at it this way and reverse engineer it is because then your assets are going to be relevant. They're going to be, they're going to be desirable because they're related to the desired state that your prospect has. And they will be useful because, again, they help them take that step further. They help them get from here to step 1 or step 2 or step 3 to 4 or maybe all the way. And they're going to link back to your product's value proposition because the assets you distribute are going to be an individual component of the overall transformation. All right, so I'm hoping that makes sense there. So current state, where your prospects are today, where they want to get to, the series of actions they need to take, you become the change agent, right? So for example, one of the actions, an asset I could create is how to get clear on your market, how to define your market, or how to develop and validate a message. So that could just be one asset that is, directly linked to achieving that desired state. So it's going to be relevant to them. It's going to, it's going to be something they care about. Whereas if I just ignored this and I just thought, oh, I don't know, I'll just give you like a white paper or, a case study, well, they might not actually care about that. Where's the utility in that? So that's the best way to think about sales assets. Okay, moving on. Free offers. So that's assets. Another type of campaign you can use is free offers. So what can you offer the prospect for free that others would charge money for? So this is going to increase your conversion rate by an insane amount if done correctly. And the reason why is, again, most people just want to take the shortcut. They're lazy to do this. They're either entitled, they think they're too good or too far ahead or to do this. And so it's just a great way to stand out, right? Zig while others zag. And so to create free offers that are relevant and desirable, you just follow this same kind of, take the same perspective of where are my target audience, where are they trying to get to, how can I be the change agent that gets them there, how can I offer utility to them. But then it's just going to be slightly different, the thing you actually give them. So some examples, providing audits, so auditing something of their business and then providing them with an in-depth report. Transferring their accounts from competitor to your product, automating a specific business process they care about, actually like building them something, or performing like research and providing them with detailed summary. These are just some examples of free offers. So doing things that people would typically charge for, right? And so again, I don't make any of this up. Like this is a free offer that somebody gave me that I actually took them up on. So they had a competitor to Linktree. And they basically reached out and said, look, I will build you your page for free. on our pro plan, right? And so this immediately stood out to me. They did it, and I used them, right? So typically, they've given me a free subscription that they would typically charge money for. That's one thing. But then they actually created the page for me. They transferred all of my links from Linktree to their product, right? So this is an example of a free offer, right? Very manual, probably takes them a lot of time. Long term, is it the most efficient use of time? Probably not. But is that going to help them grow in the short term and, build brand affinity with the market and stand out from everyone else who just isn't doing this and is just like asking for meetings? 100% this is going to stand out every single time. And so, you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of work for no money. And yes, that is precisely the point, right? If you're an early stage startup, thinking about scaling and automation and all these things shouldn't be the priority just yet, right? Read Do Things That Don't Scale by Paul G, right? You should just be doing whatever it takes to grow at the moment. And so, if growth is a priority for you, not running out of cash, finding traction, stealing market share from your customers, then, do whatever it takes, just ruthless execution. But if you're already at that growth or scale stage, maybe you're responsible for marketing or sales. And so you've kind of passed that, that eating crap phase, then it's just a matter of how much you want to stand out, right? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant of what stage your company is. If you just want to stand out, then this is a good campaign type to use. And then just a note on lead quality. We're almost there. Thanks for sticking with me. So although assets should be used in your growth process to generate more opportunities and accelerate your sales cycle length, for the most part, these are a mechanism used to attract colder audiences, right? Which means inherently, the purchase intent and awareness of these audiences are going to be lower, right? Inherently, they have far lower intent than somebody who's requesting a demo or coming inbound, right? You're trying to turn cold traffic into warm traffic, which is a completely different ballgame. And so a common mistake that companies make is they create assets that get, lots of engagement and attention, but they don't really generate any business outcomes, right? You just scroll through LinkedIn, you'll see this, or any social media where people offer these lead magnets, loads of comments and stuff like that, but they're not really leading to good business outcomes. And typically this is due to the asset not being tailored to the right audience. That's one thing, or being completely disconnected from the product's value proposition. So they've got an asset or an offer that, people want, but there's no link between that asset and the product or the solution that person's trying to sell, right? We're doing this for business outcomes. We're not doing this just to become famous or get more replies and stuff like that. We're doing this to generate business outcomes. And so here's an example of two assets, right, to hit this point home. Asset one is a database containing, over 100 SaaS product ideas. This is going to be really attractive to people. Asset two is how to rapidly develop and validate your startup's value proposition, right? So two assets. This first asset is going to get heaps of engagement. I would say it has strong potential to achieve virality if you put it on Instagram or TikTok. But inherently, this asset attracts beginners, people who don't run a SaaS company. SaaS founders, existing SaaS founders, they don't want a database containing product ideas, right? They already have a company. They're focused on other problems. And so inherently, this is attracting beginners. Whereas this second asset is attracting people with an existing SaaS company because of the problem it addresses, right? If you are attempting to or interested in validating your company's value proposition, then you have to have a company to begin with, right? And you're likely in the earlier stages of your company because, a scale up, well, they've already validated their value proposition. They already have a message. They already have scalable channels. And so this isn't a problem they care about. And so it's a very specific asset to a very specific group of people. And so it's going to resonate with them and it's going to provide utility to people you care about. And this can be extrapolated to any type of product, service or market, right? To give an example, I worked with a legal tech startup that was offering a free NDA template, which had a terrible MQL, marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead conversion rate, right? What that means is opted in leads to qualified sales opportunity. Loads of people were downloading it, but none of them were turning into, or a low percentage of them were turning into sales opportunities. And the reason why is obvious, right? Because anyone might want an NDA template, but just because you download an NDA template doesn't mean, it has zero correlation with purchase intent. So this legal tech company, their product costs £20,000 per year minimum, it went up to hundreds of thousands of pounds. And their ICP were like tech companies with 2 to 3 in-house lawyers. And so a company with 2 to 3 in-house lawyers, you know, their overheads are probably, just for those lawyers, are hundreds of thousands per year in salaries and software and stuff like that. Why would a team or a company like that want free NDA templates, right? The whole, one of the purposes of having an in-house legal team is so you can create custom agreements. And so why would you go about and download NDA templates? You know, you just wouldn't. And so instead, we chose a better offer that was more suitable for a problem-aware audience that fit the ICP, right? So just to hit that point home, this is a common mistake that people make is they just think, oh, lead magnets or assets. Okay, let's just create something like a template or a resource or something like that. But it has to be relevant to the type of people you're attracting. Hopefully that hit home. And then talk about offers a bit. So just a quick change in perspective. So anything you give to your target audience in return for money and or time is an offer, right? And just because you're offering something for free doesn't mean you have to sell it. So you might spend hours crafting the best asset you've ever built, but if it's not positioned as an attractive offer, as something your target audience cares about, then the probability of it working is low, right? The prospect doesn't care if you've poured your heart and soul into it. They care about how it benefits them, right? And so some ways to create an attractive offer. And by attractive offer, just to define that, it's an offer where the perceived value greatly outweighs any associated costs. It focuses on a specific problem. It has high perceived value. It has proof of working. You know, whenever you make a claim, you have to provide evidence of it working. Risk reversal, so if it doesn't work, if you're just offering something free, then the risk reversal is kind of it being free. And then pricing and terms as well. Okay, so campaign summary then. So rapidly test campaign ideas, angles, and types to find what works. Always use spin tags to avoid fingerprinting. Use soft call to actions that include assets and free offers. So think what's in it for me, think utility, current state, desired state. How can I take them a step further to that desired state? And then just look at the bigger picture. That's where the assets, big levers are. You know, do I have a proof of concept? Do I have case studies, testimonials? Am I conveying my product's value proposition effectively in my funnel? Do I look like a trustworthy person that people want to work with? All of these things really, really matter more than, you know, your subject line and stuff like that. For details about offers, again, I can go into more depth about this. This is all stuff, frameworks taken from growsas.com. And then we've got inbox management. So if done properly, if you're still with me and you've set this system up, then, you know, really you should have an engine that can predictably generate hundreds of replies every month, maybe even like hundreds of meetings per month. And, you know, just a quick math, so I'm not like, you know, lying here, like 10 domains, 3 accounts per domain, 30 accounts, sending 15K emails a month, estimated 5,000 leads contacted. That's 250 replies at a 5% reply rate, right? This is not impossible. This is very realistic. I would say this is conservative. So 250 replies, just like bare minimum, if you set up this system, which then naturally raises the question, how do you efficiently manage, you know, 250 replies or hundreds of replies or thousands of replies every month without, you know, it becoming a full-time job? And so the specifics of this will vary depending on the org structure. You know, if you're a more established company, you have a larger team, or if you're like a startup that's trying to you know, solve product market fit, you're going to be a bit on the leaner side. So it will depend on, you know, what resources you have available to you. But I'll just talk through these systems because I think it applies to everyone. So these systems are going to reduce friction in your inbox management, as well as how to think about inbox management. And so the purpose of these systems is so that you could have an individual, you know, working part-time, even a contractor, a few hours per week, who could efficiently manage, you know, thousands of replies every month, rather than having, you know, putting this on, you know, your team. So speed to lead is an important metric to always try to improve. You know, studies show that companies who respond to leads within 5 minutes are 100 times more likely to convert opportunities, right? So that's what we're optimizing for here. As soon as someone says yes, how can we progress things as quick as possible, right? If you're waiting hours or days to respond to leads, you know, you're just leaving so much money on the table. So one way to do inbox management is using reply buckets. So most replies you receive will fall into the following buckets: interested, not interested. So interested is, of course, they're interested to work with you. Not interested is the inverse. Out of office, this happens a lot. Referrals, so hey, I'm not the right person, you should speak to this person. And then future, now is not the right time, right? Most replies will fit into these buckets. You might have some outside, but for the most part, they will fit into these buckets. And categorizing your email replies in this way is going to allow you to create workflows, triggers, and automations that are going to reduce your response time and just ensure that prospects are receiving the right info at the right time, right? Like if somebody says interested, we should be jumping on that and we should be arming them with the right information and progressing things. If people are saying not interested, then, we would follow up to them differently than somebody who's interested, right? So it's about right info at the right time. And also just trying to remove human error out of the loop, right? If somebody's hungover, they're probably going to respond to leads differently than if they were, filled with energy, they've had breakfast and exercised. And so we're just trying to remove human error and just try to, systemize it, the whole inbox management process a bit better. So referring back to Instantly, they have this Unibox feature where basically all of your replies from all of your sending accounts are pulled into a single user interface. So really, really useful. If you have 30 Gmail accounts, you don't need to be in 30 different, tabs. You can have everything in one place. And so they have some cool features that, speed up the inbox management process. So they have default statuses. So you can assign these sort of statuses to leads, or you can create custom tags. So some of the default ones, interested, meeting booked, et cetera, or you can create custom tags if you have, whatever language you're using internally. So yeah, all of your emails, even if you have 1,000 accounts, are going to appear in here. And you can use various filters, like filter to specific campaigns, let's say, or send an account. So let's say, you're sending emails from John and Sarah and Liam, then you can filter the inbox by those sending accounts. So if you have individuals responsible for those accounts, they can sit here and just filter by their campaigns and all this other cool stuff that you can use to save time. In account settings, you can also enable features that, so they have this AI inbox manager, which is in beta right now, where it runs sentiment analysis against the replies. Is it positive? Is it negative? And then you can use that to auto tag replies. So rather than you sitting here and manually tagging replies, Instantly can do that automatically. And then via integrations, you can push leads to various tools. So some example use cases here, rather than your team or yourself sitting inside Instantly's Unibox for hours per day, when somebody replies, it can send you a notification in Slack, right? Most of us spend time in Slack every day. So rather than being, sat in Instantly, you receive it in Slack, so then you can action it. When somebody replies with a positive response, pushing that to your CRM. So if you've got like a sales team or however you're operating on the back end, you can sign leads to individual team members. You can then actually, quantitatively measure, okay, you got assigned this lead at this time, you didn't reply until this time. And so you can actually measure your speed to lead. And there's a log, creating custom analytics via Instantly's API. There's all types of ways you can get creative here. They also have an OpenAI integration. So if you want to take things a step further, there's actually, ways you can auto-generate replies to leads based on the lead's reply, right? So this is kind of more advanced. Before, again, messing with automation, just recommend understanding how to do it manually. And then another way is templates. So this is going to save you hours, right? Just as most replies fall into these reply buckets, the actual follow-ups you send to prospects are probably going to have a lot of similarities as well, right? So this is why it's useful to create templates. There's no point even spending 60 seconds writing an email if you've already sent that email dozens of times already, right? Just create a template. And, again, referring back to the human error thing, depending on how somebody feels on the day, they might, give a real thorough email to a lead, or they might just kind of, give 1 word, 2 word, 3 word replies, which is, potentially could cost you opportunity. So by using templates, you're putting the same amount of effort into every reply, just trying to systemize it. So inside the inbox, you just create the templates here. I think they call it macros. And so you just send the right information to people every single time. Subsequences, so then like bring in automation into the picture. So Instantly have a feature called subsequences that basically you can automatically follow up with people. So the way you set it up is inside a sequence, you create subsequences. So a common use case is for out of office. And so the conditions are if a lead is marked as out of office by the tag, or you can even monitor for specific keywords in their email. Basically, it will automatically add them to a subsequence. So to explain this in a bit more detail. So say if somebody they return an automated email that says they're out of office, you can either, when you assign them tag them as out of office, trigger the subsequence, or just by them using the words OOO or out of office, the subsequence will be automatically triggered. And what that kind of looks like on the back end is you can then have a subsequence that follows up with that lead in 10 or 15 days when probably they're back from holiday, and then it continues the conversation, rather than if you didn't do that, where, it just stops and, this lead never gets followed up with again. So it's just about efficiency, like making sure everyone's receiving emails being followed up with. So you're trying to reduce those leaks across your funnel. So it's just a far more efficient way to be operating. Okay, yeah, so it's just about working smart, not hard. So even if you're spending 1 minute per response, that's not like an immediate opportunity. That's hours per month that could be spent elsewhere, right? Of course, you want to focus your efforts on people who are, in market, looking to buy, interested in your service. That's where you want to be focusing most of your efforts. You're pushing those deals forward. Everything else is not so much a priority, right? And so that's where you can use subsequences. So if they're out of office, pushing them straight into this subsequence, so a team member doesn't have to be manually following up with them. If they're not interested, circling back in like 6 months or something. Referral, having a template or a subsequence there. Future, setting a reminder, follow up in 6 months, right? Just trying to build this efficient engine as much as possible. And again, so the less hours you're spending on these manual things, the more hours you can spend on, higher leverage things, or the less team members you have to hire to do those manual things. So it's all just about efficiency. And then finally, some inbox management principles before we finish up here. So first of all, be intentional. Don't be this person who just thoughts ? Or, what do you think? Being lazy, put effort in and you're going to stand out. Share relevant content to that prospect, share case studies, sales assets, put the time into, create sales assets that are actually going to move prospects closer to that desired state. Speed to lead, really important. Follow up as quickly as possible. The systems you build on the back end for inbox management should be really optimized around speed to lead as one of the metrics. How quickly can we follow up with people? And then reduce friction. So make it easy for the prospect to say yes or no. If they say yes, remove all friction to that, getting that next step. Rather than just offering a Calendly link, offer them a Calendly link and then offer them manually offer them availability as well, because some people get funny about Calendly links. Or if they give you availability, don't reply back to them and say, actually, yeah, this works or that works. Just schedule it right in the calendar, right? It's all about reducing friction. This can really matter. If you're getting hundreds of replies per month, this really makes a difference. Okay, so a bit of a long video. So just to summarize things. So number one, stop sending cold emails from your primary domain. You need to protect your crown jewels. Click that. Use secondary domains as sending accounts for horizontal scale rather than hiring more people. Find, export, and verify targeted lists of leads using cost-effective platforms. You do not need to be paying 20, 30, 40K on these sort of old sales engagement softwares. Warm up your new sending infrastructure using a tool such as Instantly. Create high-performing campaigns using the copy frameworks provided. Efficiently manage hundreds or thousands of replies using inbox management techniques provided. And finally, if you do all of this, outperform every company or competitors that are still operating the old model. Now, of course, just by reading this document, you're not going to turn into a cold email ninja right away. It's just, it's a case of experimentation and putting in the reps. If you're an early stage B2B SaaS founder who wants to rapidly solve product market fit, feel free to check out growsas.com. This is just one tiny piece of what we focus on. We exclusively help early stage B2B SaaS founders find traction and build repeatable growth. And we do that by giving you the exact protocol used to help a startup grow to 20 million ARR in 3 years while bootstrapped, and help a 21-year-old build and sell their software startup for $2 million without giving a single piece of equity. And we'll work with you every step of the way to get you to that desired state. And what you can expect if you work with us. So get clear on your market, its problems and the most profitable ones to solve. Actually then develop a message that speaks to those problems and positions your product as unique. how to rapidly validate and iterate that message so you can achieve message market fit, how to pick, validate, and scale a marketing channel, how to improve product growth if you're on the product-led side and build a sales process on the sales-led side, and how to turn your company from constant fires and chaos to a repeatable engine that's going to maximize your enterprise value and can be sold for healthy revenue multiples. The way to grow a SaaS company looks very different to what it did 3 to 5 years ago in that kind of growth at all costs era. And this is where myself and my co-founder have invested 100% of our focus on this. So if you'd like to work with us, growsas.com. Hope you found this video valuable. Any comments, feedback, any follow-up videos I need to do, if you want access to any resources, just comment below and I'll get them over to you. Cheers.